Hello and a warm welcome to Federal Special Program Capital Beat. Congress today announced that it will launch a nationwide campaign titled MNREGA Bachao Abhiyan from January 5th, 2026 to protest the center's decision to repeal the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act and replace it with a restructured rural jobs framework. Now, Party President Mallikarjun Kharge disclosed the timeline after the Congress Working Committee, which was held today. He has directed the state units and workers to mobilize across the country in the coming weeks. The campaign follows deliberations at the apex party body on how to oppose what the party calls the scrapping of Manrega and the perceived erosion of rural employment rights. And this is what, and Mallikarjun Kharge said that the nationwide drive will involve public outreach, rallies, and other forms of protest aimed at highlighting the impact of repealing the long standing rural job guarantee law. He also stressed the need for concrete planning and broad participation from party units to build the momentum ahead of the January 5th launch. So the big question now is that has Manrega Bachao Abhiyan, will it replace the campaign which was started as far as SIR was concerned? We saw Bihar how the momentum took off as far as the SIR issue was concerned. So now Manrega Bachao, does it become the biggest issue for Congress? And come as it does just on the eve of elections, the states which are scheduled for elections like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Puducherry, Assam, West Bengal. So will this become a major issue? And can it win elections for Congress? Can Manrega Bachao win elections for Congress is the big question. Joining me this evening is TK Rajlakshmi, senior editor from the Frontline magazine. Thank you so much, Rajlakshmi, for joining. We have
Hello.
Pushparaj Deshpande, who's the author of the book called Bharat
Hi.
Jodo
Hi.
Yatra. He works also closely with the India Alliance. Thank you so much, Pushparaj, for joining. And let me begin with Pushparaj just to get a little perspective as to how Congress is planning. Now, today, Congress Working Committee met, and it seems that Manrega Bachao was the biggest issue. There was a press conference later by Rahul Gandhi and Mallikarjun Kharge. So now, does this become the biggest issue ahead of the elections in the five states in the coming year?
Hi, Niluji. A very good evening to you, Raj Lakshmiji, and of course our panelists. See, the fact of the matter is that the abolishment, this effectively is circumscribing NREGA, is not just an election issue. It is also an attack on and on the rights-based paradigm that the UPA government had had passed in the between 2004 and 2014. See, today, if you hear leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi's speech after the press conference after the CWC, he clearly outlined the five key issues that this campaign will take. Firstly, this is going to be a federal issue. As we already know, the fact of the matter is that they have transferred the financial burden of the scheme onto states. Plus, they have also capped 60 days, they have said, as a blackout period during peak agricultural season. That is going to put a tremendous amount of pressure on state governments. Now, if you if you also couple this with the fact that out of the 906 central sponsored schemes that the central government, the union government sponsors and supports, they have been underfunding it by 70 these schemes by 71.9%, some of the schemes up to 60%. So that is one big financial attack on the rights of states. Then, of course, if you go on to look at the Finance Commission report, now, of course, they'll table it in this parliament, you'll realize that they are going to cap tax devolution, which is already languishing at 31%, as compared to the last Finance Commission's mandated 41%. So you can understand that state governments will have very limited financial room to actually implement their welfare agendas. So naturally, this is, given the fact that in the constitution it is a union of state, this is a naturally federal issues, and the Congress party has asked its state units as well as its state's government to take this up in a big way. That's one big thing. The second thing he rightly pointed out is that this is an attack on the rights of workers. As per the UPA's Mahatma Gandhi NREGA, National Rural Development Act, what would happen is that when any worker would go to demand work, he or she would be guaranteed 100 days work and if they did not get it in 15 days, they would be given an unemployment allowance. Now what they're saying is that they're sort of circumscribed, that they're saying there'll be a central planning board, there'll be some kind of availability. If there is availability, then we'll give it to you, so on and so forth. So what you have effectively done is that from a demands-based program, you have now made it into a supply-based program. So this will create tremendous pressure on rural landless laborers. And you know for a fact that even now, roughly 45 to 50% of India is dependent on this particular scheme. And you look at what has happened in the last 11 years, no matter the fact that Prime Minister Modi
Does it,
said that.
Pushpraj, but does it become a main issue for Congress now for the coming elections in all the 5 states which will go to polls? Does this become the major issue?
It will become one of the major issues, not just in these polls, but also the next round of polls. Aap samjho, like it's not just West Bengal, Assam, as well as the Tamil Nadu, Puducherry, and Kerala that are dependent on NREGA. The next round of states, Punjab, Uttarakhand, and immediately after that, Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, all of these states are heavily dependent on NREGA. Are you really saying that the BJP does not understand what a self-goal this is? And let me put it very clearly. The BJP is doing this because they said that we will double farmers' income. They have not been able to deliver on that for various reasons. That's a different issue. But what has happened is that they are saying that, boss, let us now take the side of these large landed landowners who basically are saying that during peak agricultural season, we're not getting laborers, and because of the higher wages, because there's a floor minimum that has been put because of NREGA. So they're saying, let's side with these people, and then we'll be able to mobilize voters and financial support because of this. But trust me, NREGA has 2 decades of embeddedness, and I think there is going to be a genuine upsurge, especially when rural indebtedness has increased, consumption is declining, and there is generally stagnant wages for the past 8 or 9 years, not to mention higher unemployment. Given this, NREGA was a critical lifeline. Now when you take away this lifeline, how are people going to manage? And my sense is that Congress party is very right in raising this legitimate grievance that people are beginning to feel. Look at what is happening in Rajasthan and Maharashtra and Karnataka. There are already protests happening about what is happening with NREGA.
Okay, so Rajlakshmi, how do you make sense of this MNREGA Bachao Abhiyan, which Congress will be starting? And of course, what Mr. Kharge said, that all the state units now will have to keep up the momentum. There'll be an outreach program through rallies and other programs as well. What do you feel about this decision which has been taken at the CWC today?
See, I think it's a good move. It's an important move to sort of take this up, and because everybody was caught by surprise. Clearly, in fact, nobody knew that the government had this in mind when they proposed the bill, and they literally pushed it through Parliament. In any case, the opposition didn't stand a chance as far as the bill was concerned. Even though we were told, we also learned that some of the NDA allies were also, opposed to it, precisely because it is a popular scheme, and it's popular because not because people really that it really alters the lives of people, but all that it gives is a fighting chance to people who are actually at the margins. It gives a survival chance, a chance of survival to thousands of not thousands, in fact, millions of families in the country who are landless, as as Pushpraj said, and the small farmer, the small, in fact, peasant, who does not get, who has a small, landholding, which is not sufficient to sustain, throughout the year, and that small peasant also does NREGA work. We have found so many examples of educated youth doing NREGA work, precisely because there are no alternate avenues of employment. So the kind of in rural distress, the kind of urban employment distress that is there in the country, NREGA at least helped assuage, address some of that, part of that. And since it was a demand-based scheme, there was a demand, there was a consistent demand. Yes, there have been delays over payments, and in fact, the center is also responsible for in fact quite a deal, as far as the delays are concerned. But that is no reason to have sort of changed the entire nature of the scheme, circumscribing it to only to around 125 days, and that too it will be entirely contingent, on the whimsy of the center, as to who they decide to also, and where those 125 days are going to be allocated. It's not even certain, I mean how this is going to actually work out. And obviously there will be favoritism here. They will be sort of pick and choose, and again the pradhan or the panchayat, or the panchayat heads, are going to have complete control over who that work is going to be allocated to. So the I mean, apart from all these, arbitrariness, involved, the whole federal setup being, messed up, the states being getting a raw deal of the deal itself, because having them to shell out a substantial amount of the NREGA kitty, all these things are there, but I think that it will require a lot for the Congress and others and the India bloc to make this into a issue, into a national issue. Because unlike the farm laws, you see there, big farmers, small farmers, they did stand to lose a lot, and therefore they sort of came together. Here it is the agricultural workers, the poor agricultural workers, the real agricultural peasant, who stands to lose in this entire uh, bargain. In fact, the rural poor, literally the rural poor. So here I think a lot will need to take, to sort of mobilize them, because without their support it is not going to be adequate. I mean, I feel, because to sustain, to sort of put that kind of a movement, it is not just enough to sort of unite the opposition. Yes, politically it's important. It should be raised politically, definitely, and I think that's what is being done. But also on ground, I mean, how do all these parties sort of come together and sort of mobilize people, in various levels? That will remain to be seen. In fact, the Sanyukt Kisan Morcha, the SKM, which was at the forefront of the agitation against the three farm laws, they have decided, they have already started their protests. But again, a lot of support will be needed from all fraternal peasant organizations, farmer organizations. The Congress doesn't have a great base amongst peasants and farmers. Actually, it doesn't. Farmers, yes, maybe as big farmers probably, but not the small peasants, and definitely not
So you
amongst the
see this,
agricultural
Rajlakshmi,
workers.
so you see
Yeah.
this as an opportunity also for Congress, and of course, it's a legacy issue. It's something. It's a right. It's a guarantee which Congress brought in, and then it was scrapped out. So of course, it's a prestige issue also to fight. Then fighting for the rights of the laborers, but also you see this as an opportunity for Congress to reconnect back with the farmers and the laborers and the peasants.
Yes, it could be. It could, in fact, in fact, I mean, an opportunity. But in fact, let's not forget that the left parties played a big role in getting the NREGA, getting it passed, during the UPA years. It's not that the Congress was really uh, sort of willing to do all these things on its own. There was,
Yeah.
in fact, a good amount of pressure that there has to be some kind of an employment guarantee for, the rural poor, because that is why the India shining, scheme, completely collapsed. That's how the
Right.
UPA came into power in 2004.
Right.
Because of the kind of, distress that people are going through. They would address that distress. It was important. Now it's a different thing that it could not sustain it. I think beyond 2009, and that's how it could not do a third term
Right. No,
essentially. But
it's
anyway,
surely
yeah,
it's surely an issue which has been sent on a platter to Congress. But
yeah.
Pushpaj, I'll come to you. During Bihar elections, we saw that vote chori, vote theft became a huge issue. SIR became a huge issue. Now, what happens to those issues? Will they take a backseat? What is going to, I mean, what is Congress going to center its campaign on? Will it be Manrega Bachao now, or will it be vote chori? And many people feel that, this was an issue which Congress should have continued to protest. It should have continued to talk about it. But somewhere down the line, there is a feeling that and though in today's meeting also we've heard that apparently there was a mention about the SIR also, but since this became a major point, the Manrega Bachao, so is that going to become a bigger issue now? And will the other issues like SIR and vote theft take a back seat?
See, Niluji, you're perfectly right in saying that those issues continue to be perennially relevant. One cannot, given the relentless maliciousness that the BJP deploys. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Do you mind going to Rajalakshmi ji right now?
Huh. No. That's okay. You go ahead, please. No issues. No issues. Speak.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. No, so the BJP continues to attack multiple ways the constitutional idea of India, and the SIR will continue to, of course, keep escalating. See, the SIR is a disguised, not even a disguise, it's thinly veiled CA NRC. That's what it is. And the fact is that they have been able to spin it as that. A lot of the groups that the Sangh and the Sangh Parivar manages on the ground in Bihar was basically spreading the rumor saying that, you know what, the SIR is actually to keep Muslims in check. It is going to remove this illegal immigrant. So the fact is it has become a communal issue. That will continue to happen in West Bengal. That will happen in Assam. Sorry, there's already been a delimitation in Assam, but that will also happen in Assam. It will also happen in other election-going states. So that is something that the India parties and the Congress party will have to tackle in their own way in a different tactic. NREGA becomes an existential issue. What happens is that attack is on the electoral right of one person, one value, one vote. Right. This particular issue is an economic attack on I mean, Hindi में कहावत है, लोगों के पेट पे लात लग रही है इससे. People are getting hit where it hurts. So NREG, what Rajalakshmi ji said was very interesting, and it's an actual valid point. See, the last NSSO survey, I mean, they've been fudging data, they don't release it. So last time it was in 2017 and 18. That said that marginal farmers, small and medium farmers who own less than 5 hectares of land amounts to 89.4%. Now, if you ignore that, the agricultural census that happened in 2015, 2016 said that is something like 86.8%. Whether it's 86.8% or it's 89.3%, it's fairly large section of the Indian farmers who own less than 5 hectares, and at least one person in their family is dependent on NREGA. But as she said, this section of community of Indian society is not organized, unlike the large farmers. So in the large farmers, when the 3 farm laws were brought in, the large farmers as well as the medium farmers were able to coalesce very quickly and pose an organized movement, which then the India parties, that time the UPA parties, were able to sort of support and work with. This time is going to be much harder, and in a sense it's as much as a challenge as an opportunity for the India parties, especially the Congress. There is no other party apart from the Congress which has a kind of organizational strength across the country as the BJP does. So the Congress party will really have to go beyond the symbolic protests at the city centers, at district headquarters, and the state capitals, and find a way to reconnect with this. I mean, the grievance is real. I'm not saying that the grievance that small and marginal farmers will not be real. They will feel it very hard. The sting will be very potent, but they're not organized. So, like in the freedom struggle, like a Gandhian strategy, like what the Bharat Jodo Yatra did, they will have to find a way to reconnect with the people. Now, as I said, if the Congress party is able to do this successfully, this will create an upsurge, a democratic bottom-up upsurge, which the BJP will be hard-pressed to, counter, given the fact that it has put the widespread impression is that it is a government of, by, and for the really rich crony capitalists.
No, but Pushpraj, are you hopeful that Congress will be able to put up a campaign almost on the lines of what we saw during the farm laws, and they were repealed? BJP government was forced to withdraw it. Will we see a similar kind of a momentum put up by Congress? And obviously, as you said, there's just not about elections, but if you have the eye directly on the 2029 elections, or will this campaign be will give some dividends to Congress in the coming elections, which are in 2026 and also the next year?
One can only hope that it does. But as I said, and I started the point I made earlier with this point, that this particular bill, this particular act, VBG Ramji bill, actually demolishes, in a very large sense, the idea, the normative notion that the state has duties towards the citizen, right? It is now abdicating itself from these duties. So the effects will be not just limited to the next round of elections or till 29 elections. It will go beyond for the next 10, 20 years. Because if you don't see, we are a consumption driven economy. India is. Consumption accounts for 56.3 or 4% of our economy. Now, there is incomes, understand this. Employment is stagnant, is declining, in fact. Wages have been stagnant. Rural indebtedness is rising. And consequently, what is happening is that people have less savings. They're taking more loans, which is why household indebtedness is rising. Now, in this situation, if you're not being able to put money directly into the hands of people, right, what will happen is that you are not going to be, you are effectively shutting off the primary driver of Indian economy. My suspicion is that the BJP is doing this because it wants to take away this NREGS kitty, the money. It's going to dip into that and give direct cash transfers just before elections. So they know for a fact that it is not enough any longer to get a vote on Prime Minister Modi's name. The last 5 elections, if there are any proof of the fact that Prime Minister Modi's mojo has been completely demolished, is the fact that they are not asking for votes on Modi's name anymore. They are saying, we'll give you 10,000 rupees, 20,000 rupees, whatever the scheme's name will be, whether it's Ladki Behan Yojana or XYZ in Bihar, whatever it is. So the fact of the matter is that this is a way to take away that pile of money that was going to our consumption economy, driving our consumption, and putting, bribing voters through populist measures, which will have at best 6, 7, 8 months. Because even if you give 10,000 rupees, at most you'll be able to give 4, 5 months of some kind of a jump start. But the fact of the matter is, after 6 months of that money that is transferred, it's back to square one. NREG is demolished. There is nothing to drive consumption economy. So again, to come back to your larger question, this is going to be a much harder battle than the farm laws. The farm laws catered to large farmers, and in the sense, large farmers were the primary aggrieved party in that particular, because of those 3 bills, and they were already fairly organized, so they were able to come together. In this particular case, landless laborers and small and marginal farmers, there is no such body pan India which is able to organize very quickly. There, the India parties were able to dovetail their energies into a movement that was outside the formal political space. This time, for the first time in, I think, 3 decades, we are going to see a movement. If you keep Bharat Jodo Yatra as an outlier, where the parties are going to have to kickstart a movement from below. And I don't count India against corruption in this particular thing, because that was RSS funded.
Another thing, I remember last Foundation Day of Congress, and in fact, tomorrow is the Foundation Day of Congress again. Last year, it was announced, these Sangathan Srijan programs were announced, where they are trying to rebuild the party from the foundations and from the grassroots level. So will this now help really in building up this movement at the grassroots level?
Again, as I said, one can only hope so. I haven't seen any report in the media, so I don't know how successful that program will be. But I think this question, the General Secretary Organization, K.C. Venugopal, and the National War Room in charge, Senthil, these are the people who are actually spearheading this program. So I feel that if they have been able to organize the Sangathan Shrijin program well, and they've been able to appoint strong district leaders at the grassroots, they will have to take a key role in the next 6 months. And if the program is good, the success of that program, the internal organizational program, will depend on the next 6 months. If they have been able to do well, then you will see a grassroots movement emerge to take on the BJP government on NREGA.
All right. So again, whether it has been tested or not, we yet have to see. And Congress has already lost Bihar badly. So Rajlakshmi, how would you assess this MNREGA Bachao campaign in the coming days for Congress? Obviously, Congress has to put in a lot of legwork. They have to really work hard. We do not know yet how the grassroots build-up for Congress has been with its Sangathan Srijan program. Is the journey for Congress really tough now in the coming months? Of course, they have issues. There was an issue like SIR, there was an issue like vote chori, but even then, I don't know what happened really, and why Congress lost Bihar, why the opposition lost Bihar. Another thing which Mr. Kharge said, that they do have the support of all the parties, the opposition parties, when it comes
Yeah.
to an issue like Manrega. So where do you see Congress really in this entire Manrega Bachao campaign?
Well, I think the top leadership is clear that it has to be taken to the people. Now, how it does it, it's all a question of logistics and its own organizational skills. It has to, I mean, it has to get the workers acting on ground, essentially, right? So it has to first explain, as to why this act is bad, the new act is bad, and how it's actually going to hurt the interests of the people who are already on the margins even more. So I think it all lies in how these messages are conveyed properly, and in the form of a campaign, because ultimately there is only to an extent that the top leadership can do. I mean, it's not that they can be everywhere, and we also know that there are very few as people in the Congress now who are actually I mean, let's say in the field, who can sort of take the message to the field in that sense. If you look at the top leadership, it is Rahul, there's Priyanka, maybe there's Mr. Kharge, and maybe a few others, but in the Hindi belt, it's extremely important that they do sort of energize their cadre, and they do energize their let's say the mid level and maybe the lower ranks also. Of course, the lower ranks have to take it to the people, because they are the ones who live amongst the people, essentially, isn't it? So those kind of things are huge challenges. It's not going to merely suffice, Nelu, by issuing press statements every day that the Congress is very good at, and of course that also requires a certain amount of competence, which they have maybe. But I think it's not enough. The southern states, yes, the southern states have their people in place, and they have their party structures in place, I'm talking about the non BJP ruled states, that is, who are part of the India bloc also. So there I think they will be able to do it on their own. But as far as the Hindi belt states are concerned, there the Congress has to work with its other India bloc alliance partners, and has to maybe mount a campaign as important, as significant as it did, in Bihar. I mean, that is how it was able to sort of retain its vote share. That's how the India bloc as a whole, I think they managed to retain their share vote shares. So I think similarly, it has to not let go of the of its of, let's say, the momentum that started during
Like
the Bihar
vote choring
elections.
campaign, we did see some differences between RJD and Congress also later on, and there was a gap in the middle of Bihar elections. So, does this not? And this is my last question to you, Rajlakshmi. That is it not like a challenge for Congress now to synergize all the parties together on an issue like this, and so that the past mistakes, what were seen during Bihar elections, they don't get repeated.
Yeah, I think sometimes one has to look beyond electoral gains also. For instance, it can't just be addressed from the point of view that there are 5 or 6 states going to elections, therefore we have to take it up. It is actually a matter of life and death for several people in this country. So if that is sort of taken seriously, sort of taken serious note of, and that it's not just a question of some election, an election related campaign alone. It has to be it has to be restored, just like the farm laws were so crucial that they had to go, because it was a question of life and death for the farming class of this country, for the agricultural class of this country. Similarly, this is also a question of life and death
Right.
for millions of agricultural workers in this country, for the millions of agriculture as well as urban youth who actually fall back on such work to sustain their families. So from that point of view, especially in the absence of anything else, because nothing else is there. If there was something other than the dole that Pushprat said, will be given out at the time of elections, there will be sort of direct transfers to people's accounts, isn't it? Because that is one way that the BJP has found, has it seems to think that it's working. but again, it's not sustainable. And as sustainable as the NREGA was, because NREGA was happening every year. It was
Yeah.
happening every year, and in fact continuously throughout the year, whether it was lean months or sort of non-lean months of agricultural production. Therefore, therefore it is far more serious. The issue is far more serious, and it goes, beyond elections.
Right.
Because if elections is the objective, then everything becomes short-sighted, Nilu, and
Right.
the efforts will also be lukewarm. They won't
Yeah.
be as sincere
Absolutely.
as they should be.
And
Yeah.
yeah, both of you are right that this issue is just not about elections. I think Pushparaj wants to make a point, then I'll end the show.
Yeah.
Yes,
No,
Pushparaj.
no,
Yeah.
I just wanted to add on to what Rajalakshmi ji said. Most economists, keeping aside Professor Amartya Sen, John Dray's, Ritika Khera, they have they've largely pushed this line for which there has been a bipartisan consensus that we have to somehow, that old Keynesian curve, na, that we have to push employable labor out of agriculture into manufacturing, low scale manufacturing, construction, all this stuff. Now the fact of the matter is demonetization and COVID was a reverse that trend. I'm not saying I agree with that particular logic, but what the government is now trying to do structurally is basically put a complete legislative stop to labor being there in rural areas, and basically forcing them out into urban areas. Consider what will happen. Let's assume, let's play this out, and this is the last question I'll leave you with. Let's play this out, this counterfactual, this hypothesis, as a thought experiment. If this particular act is implemented the way it is, right, VG Ramji, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years happens, right? Keep the electoral aspect aside, and people are not able to get wages or some kind of minimum safety net at the rural areas. You know what's going to happen? They're all going to shift into urban areas. Consider the problem that is going to happen in urban areas. Firstly, the minute census
Right.
happens, I can bet my life on it that 60% of India is going to be classified as urban. You're going to have more crowding in urban areas. You're going to have more pressures coming into urban centers. The way they are designed right now, the so-called smart cities, are not equipped to handle even this current population, let alone the labor that is suddenly locked loose because of this particular thing. Are we even planning to account for this? Is this government even thinking about the political, sociological implications of what will happen once this labor comes into India? You're not, because you're not going to be able to employ them. You're not going to be able to accommodate them. You're not going to be able to feed them. There's going to
Yeah.
be, this is just another round of I mean, people who are dissatisfied, unhappy, they don't have wages, and this is something that the BJP will benefit from, because the only thing that can sustain them is hateful politics. So it's sort of a factory for authoritarianism.
Absolutely. And that was a significant point you made, that, it will lead to a lot of exodus from the villages to the cities. Is the government really prepared for that? So we'll have to wait and watch how this entire issue builds up in the coming days, how Congress is able to synergize all the parties on an issue like, replacing Manrega with the VBG Ramji bill. We'll have to end it here. Thank you so much, Raj Lakshmi, Pushpraj. Thank you very much for joining.